So thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have Dr. Katie Homa joining us. She is a Director of Academic and Engineering Writing Support with North Carolina State University Graduate School, where she designs and delivers writing-oriented professional development programming for graduate and postdoc trainees across disciplines. Prior to joining the NC State in 2018, Dr. Homa was a Britain postdoctoral fellow in Georgia Institute of Technology's Writing and Communication program. With a PhD in English from the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. Homa has taught writing in college-level students for nearly a decade and enjoys the opportunities to learn about research across disciplines and help trainees communicate the impact of their work to a variety of stakeholders. She is also a committee co-chair with the Graduate Career Consortium, an organization that is the leading voice in graduate career and professional development. Thank you so much, Dr. Homa. I'm going to hand these to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Somanita, for that warm welcome and nice to see everyone here. You probably signed up for this workshop because you have to complete a big writing project in the near future. Maybe a paper for coursework, a published journal article, or something bigger like a dissertation or thesis. In today's session, you will learn strategies for managing big writing projects. How can you make your writing sessions more productive, use time on writing projects more efficiently, and most importantly, how can you stay motivated? We'll specifically focus on how to set effective writing goals and be accountable to those goals. Later today, we'll touch on some resources and programs from the graduate school too, to help you succeed in your writing projects. Again, this is a game plan of our session. We'll focus first on time management strategies and techniques, then practice setting some writing project goals, and conclude with information about the graduate school's programs and how they can help you in the long term. So first of all, because this is a writing workshop, I am going to ask you to do a little bit of writing in the chat. So take about 30 seconds and think about your experiences with writing in grad school. How do you feel about writing in grad school? Maybe you've come to your program straight out of undergrad and you've done a lot of writing, or maybe you're just returning to grad school. Take about 30 seconds to post your answer in the chat, but don't hit post or send until you hear the timer. Something you don't know how to write. Thank you for being honest. It can be confusing. In grad school, you may be encountering new types of writing. Likewise, too, in grad school, deadlines can seem bigger, as if you have a whole semester to write a paper, if you have a whole year or more to write a thesis or a big project. I mean, writing one thing in content, and Nora, too, that you're comfortable with business writing. That's awesome. Academic writing still feels overly formal and stilted, struggling to see the value in adjusting since you don't plan for a career in academia. And being a great point too about structure, that you're encountering new forms, styles, or structures of writing. Today's session, though, will be focusing more generally on managing the process of a big writing project. You can think too about how these tips can apply to how you might study or learn a new writing genre, and steps to take to feel motivated with that. So often as writers, you may feel like a writing project takes forever, it's confusing, or there's no end in sight. The reality is you can finish faster than you think by having a plan, using time efficiently, and being accountable. So for example, you can schedule some type of writing into your day every single day, even if it's a really small step. And in your case, getting started with a new writing project, that small step might also involve meeting with your advisor to review criteria about an assignment or to learn more about a specific academic writing type. So Nora and Ming, can you tell me a little bit about the kinds of writing projects you're doing in your classes? Feel free to unmute and speak as well.
So right now I'm in the Intro to Research Methods class. So the focus, the sort of big thing for that class is a lit review at the end. And so we're doing all kinds of pieces to get ready for that. And it's definitely going to be a challenge for me, I think, to figure out how to structure and frame something like that.
Thanks, Nora, for sharing. That's a lit review too is a really great example of a writing project that you can break into smaller chunks. And it sounds like you've already done that, since after all, it begins with reading articles, summarizing them, and then synthesizing them into the final paper. So in this case, it's always good with these types of projects to start as early as you can. And if these genres or projects are new to you, it's good to start early to review instructions, have conversations with your instructor or advisor. And Ming too, are you working on a paper for a class?
Yes, for me, yeah. First, this is my first semester in adult education and lifelong learning. Yeah, I'm new to this field, so when the professor asked me to write a maybe paper, and she said, yeah, you need to dive into one maybe one topic about this field to write a paper and analyze it thoroughly. And first, I needed to pick out which topic I needed to write. For this, I need to search a lot of information, and then after I have read a lot of information, papers, articles, and other resources, I need to pick the topic I'm going to write. After I pick the topic I'm going to write, and I need to organize all this writing. Yeah, I think this is a very big project for me to write the paper. I wonder, yeah, how do I organize this process to make it productive? If only one paper, yeah, I need to maybe spend a lot of time in it to find a resource and think which one I need, which topic I'm going to write, and frame this this paper. Yeah, and also I need to edit. I need to think about the format. I need to think other details.
Thanks, Ming, for sharing so much. You make a really great point about writing as a process, and a process that might start too with choosing the topic. So in terms of managing that writing process, as I was saying, it's great to start as early as possible to get familiar with the requirements of the document, to spend some time picking the topic, reading articles, and searching for them. So when we talk about scheduling writing into your day every day, it could be engaging with your project in a small way like that to get the ball rolling. The key here, though, is also to track your progress, find ways to be accountable, set smaller internal deadlines, and break big tasks or projects into smaller, more manageable steps. It's a process called SMART goals that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Likewise, too, you should always identify when you work well and when you could do better. For example, we all have preferred times of day when we would prefer to work best, especially when we might prefer to work best on writing tasks or reading tasks. Just briefly raise your hand on Zoom or give a Zoom hand wave if you are an early bird. You like to work early in the morning. I am not either. Perhaps you're a night owl and like to work later at the night. My favorite time to work is the afternoon. Nora, it looks like you're a night owl. Yeah, I prefer to work more in the afternoon. And when you can, try to schedule writing tasks or reading tasks at the times when you work best, and save other times for tasks when you might find it easier. For me personally, I prefer to proofread or edit my work earlier in the morning, but not write new content. I'd rather write new content in the afternoon. And you can manage the writing process through setting SMART goals, as we'll talk about in a minute. Some other tips too for time management is to work in smaller blocks of time to improve productivity. So what we mean by this is that it can feel like you have a long time and be intimidating if you say, I'm going to work on a project for 4 hours. Yeah, that feels intimidating. It also might be a little vague, but you can break up your time into smaller chunks, thinking of it as writing sprints instead of a writing marathon. One way to do this is called the Pomodoro technique. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Pomodoro technique before. Yeah, so basically it comes from, Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato, and it comes from the word for those cute plastic kitchen tomato timers, as you see on this slide. The idea being that you divide a bigger chunk of time into smaller focused sprints, like 30-minute or 40-minute blocks, where you really concentrate on your task, in this case, on your writing task. And then you reward yourself with a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break, and then begin your next working block. After you complete 3 or 4 Pomodoros, or maybe like a 2.5-hour session, you reward yourself with a big break and perhaps move on to something else. The idea being that like you're focusing on the task for small amounts of time and pacing yourself through small breaks. It also helps to practice, like a sport or other activity, playing a musical instrument. You can build up a strong writing habit through daily practice and through these focused Pomodoro blocks and concentrated blocks of time. Likewise, too, if you are a visual thinker, it may help to plan out your writing project in stages. This may be common if you worked in the business world or in the engineering field, to make detailed timelines, Gantt charts, or tree diagrams, sometimes called work breakdown structures. If you are a visual thinker, it can help to map out the main parts of your project this way, or map out the main phases. So returning to our example of the lit review paper and the class research paper, you might create a work breakdown structure that has distinct phases for searching for articles, reading the articles, taking notes on articles, and summarizing them before moving on to a phase where you start outlining the content of the paper, writing the content, or editing. Another helpful tool is to use online project management apps to stay accountable and map the phases of your writing project. So think apps like Trello or Asana. While these apps are great for team projects, you can also use them to set individual goals and be accountable. And these apps too will send reminders. And this can especially be helpful, again, if you are a visual thinker, if you'd like to map out each task and phase of your project in a visual way. This slide, for example, was created by a graduate assistant and shows a plan for completing a journal article or a research paper. In this case, they divided their Asana into tasks to do, tasks they're currently working on, and what they've already done. And you might notice too that the writer has started early, like some of these tasks they completed in January, and they have a to-do list of things that they were going to do in March. So the key here is to stay motivated. Maybe raise your hand if you tend to procrastinate on writing. Nora, thanks for being honest. Yeah, the goal here too is to break the habit, make a commitment. It sounds though too like you all have started early on your class project papers by picking topics and looking for articles, which is good. So being committed to a writing project or staying accountable is definitely a team sport. you can work with a writing buddy or a small writing group. This could be a group that meets synchronously in real time to write together. It could also be something more asynchronous, like texting a friend that you're working on a project or sending a Slack message to a group chat that you're working on a project at a certain time. Some writers feel that that helps them stay accountable, knowing that someone else is working on a similar project at the same time. You can also use apps like Forest to help you stay motivated. These apps to like reward you for completing small tasks, building up to a big, like you win a tree for every small task, building up to a big forest. The key here is you can use social media to set positive challenges and be accountable to writing commitments. Likewise, too, when preparing for a big writing project, it helps to be comfortable. So as we talked about earlier, identify when you work best on writing-oriented tasks and try to schedule in writing at those times of day. Likewise, for some folks, place matters. Some people like working in very quiet environments, making sure it's a comfortable place to sit and work. Other people actually enjoy background noise or music and can find it energizing to work in a busy library or cafe setting. So how about you, Nora and Ming? Where's your favorite place to write, or where do you like to write?
I think for this kind of writing, I'm somewhat still figuring that out. For work, my go-to work time is the middle of the afternoon, but with this program, I'm juggling having a full-time job with being a student, and so those times aren't necessarily available to me to work on my classwork, right, other than on the weekend. And I do tend to work a lot sitting at my kitchen table on Saturdays. That seems to be a good spot.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a home office. Yeah, if you can't work at your favorite times, you could find like the second best time and build in time to work on writing projects at that time. For me, at least, I think I would rather do that than try to plan hours on the weekend. I myself actually am an AWCPE student in our instructional design certificate. So I too am doing a full-time job with certificate courses. And yeah, I find it easier to look for little bits of time at the end of the day or an early evening to work on writing projects little by little on the week, rather than saying that I'm going to block out hours on Sunday. Your mileage may vary, but I have found that helpful. Yeah, and Ming, do you have a favorite time or place to write?
Normally I work. Morning is good for me. Afternoon as well. Sometimes night, evening night is. Since I have 3 kids, so sometimes they just come to me. This is a big thing for me. But I really enjoy being with them. Yeah. But if I start doing something, I like to finish it. Yeah. At least I need to. After I start it, I want to clear what I'm going to do next. If I need some rest, I will rest, and then I'm going to finish it up. Yeah. I don't want. I don't. I don't think at this moment works well for me. Yeah, today I will write the introduction. Tomorrow I will write the body parts. Then maybe after tomorrow I will write the conclusion. Yeah. I need to try this new kind of schedule for me. Yeah.
That's a great point too. You say that when you finish something or you end a working session, you start with you identify the next thing you need to do or state a goal for the next time. That can be really helpful. You also make a really great point that no one would write a paper from the intro through the body to the conclusion in 3 days. That does sound intimidating. Yeah, definitely writing is something like you can pace yourself through by setting more specific, measurable, achievable, and time-oriented goals, which brings us to our point about SMART goals in a minute. Likewise, raise your hand if you all have ever felt writer's block. Thanks for being honest, Nora. Can you explain a little bit what writer's block is?
I mean, for me, it can be a variety of things, but you know, in the simplest terms, it's getting stuck somewhere in the process. Sometimes that's early on in terms of like, what am I even going to try to say here, right? And sometimes that's later in the process when I've done a bunch of writing, but I don't know how to get to the end, or I don't know, right? I don't know how to pull it all together.
Yeah, definitely writer's block means you don't know what to do next. You feel stuck. Some ways to break writer's block could be to switch to a new writing task. For example, you might move on, if you're bored with one section, you might move on to the next section, perhaps the section you're most interested in writing. You could also switch to a different phase within the writing process. So maybe you're tired of generating new content, but you could go back to something you've already written and edit it or proofread it. Or perhaps like you're tired of that and you can switch to writing more content. Also, another way to break writer's block is to summarize literature. This can be important if your project is literature based, to keep the process moving and keep staying motivating. You might go back and read or reread articles and write summaries. Be careful with this one though. Your mileage may vary. If your goal is to finish a paper in a certain amount of time, it could be distracting to keep reading new literature, but this tip is really helpful in the earlier phases of a writing project to keep the process going. On the other hand, if your goal is to proofread, edit, and turn in your paper or submit your journal article, you probably shouldn't keep reading literature. All of us in pursuing advanced degrees, we're interested in our topics, and we could probably go on forever researching about those topics. So it's important to set some limits with that. Likewise, too, if you're stuck writing, you can reflect on the big picture. How did you get interested in your topic? Why did you choose it? And most importantly, what are the practical applications or impact of your work? For example, in the field of education, you might think of like, how will your project benefit your own teaching, other teachers in the classroom, or school administrators? This big picture writing is never a waste of time. Even if it doesn't make the final cut of a particular project, as you move through your graduate career, you will be asked to summarize your research interests or what you've learned in your program at a higher level and for broader audiences. And so and your big picture writing could be helpful there in crafting a LinkedIn profile about your research interest and experience, or a job cover letter, as well as teaching and research statements that also ask you to summarize what you've learned about your work at a higher level. Some quick tips too. Often writers find it helpful to block distractions. There are various apps that will disconnect you from websites or from certain websites and apps, so you can really focus on writing. Again, your mileage may vary, as I recognize that so many writers really need the internet to do work or to write their papers. Most importantly, with these writing projects, it's a good idea to pace yourself. Don't try to write an entire paper in an afternoon or try to work through tons of hours and time. Again, we all work at different paces and produce writing at different paces, but it's a good idea to start early, have dedicated times to work on your project, but be realistic. And most importantly, to take some time to relax, stay active, and take care of yourself. Build in scheduled breaks, both the small Pomodoro break rewards, as well as bigger breaks to relax and stay active. For example, during the pandemic, I've really gotten into walking as a hobby to stay active. I enjoy visiting Raleigh's many parks and botanical gardens. So take a second and think about, I presented some time management techniques, some productivity and motivation techniques. In the chat, describe which technique you're most interested in trying. I'll set a short timer to give you some time to gather your thoughts, and hit post or send when you hear the timer. So Nora is interested in trying the Pomodoro technique. Yeah, it's a really helpful way to break up working sessions into smaller bits of time to really do focused writing sprints and pace yourself. And being starting early, preparing in advance. Yeah, that would be that's among the top pieces of advice I would give for writing in graduate school, especially when you're writing in genres that are new to you, unfamiliar to you. It's a good idea to start early and even dedicate some time to creating a timeline of your project with small internal deadlines. And Ming, it looks like you have your hand up. Did you want to add more to that?
Oh yes, I'm interested in the chart, the visual chart you showed us. I wonder how do we make that one? I like visual things to guide me to do things.
Yeah, so you mean the Gantt charts and the timeline charts?
Yeah, the Gantt chart. Yeah, how do we make that one? Where do we make the Gantt chart?
That's a great question. I think you can freehand draw them if you would like. There's a number of free apps online too that will generate Gantt charts. A project management app like Asana also can let you view a project as a Gantt chart or a timeline. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Would you mind show me? Yeah, I learn better to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can drop some links in the chat later to some project management apps.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So when it comes to, as I was saying about staying productive on a writing project, it helps to break down a big project into smaller, more manageable chunks. And in the graduate school, we like to talk about setting goals that are SMART. This acronym comes from the business world. There are some variations, but this is my favorite explanation of a SMART goal. A goal that's specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and timely. So by specific, we mean that having a smaller task is less intimidating and more manageable than a big, vague goal. Measurable, it is what it sounds like. The idea that we're more motivated if we can have a quantity or limit to help us understand when we've accomplished our task. When it comes to writing, you can think in terms of a number of words, a number of pages, focusing on a specific section of a paper. Likewise, these goals should be achievable, which means that it's feasible or realistic given the timeline and the amount of time you have to work in a particular session. It's more motivating to complete something that you know you can complete than something a lot bigger. Likewise, a SMART goal should be results oriented or relevant to the stage of the project that you're in. So for example, if your goal is to generate a lot of new written content, to write new ideas, to structure your paper, it might be less helpful to proofread or edit. You might get too caught up then on finding the right word or correcting punctuation rather than producing new content and ideas. On the other hand, if you're nearing your deadline and your goal is to finish up, proofreading and editing would be more relevant to that stage, and it might be less productive to read more sources or write new ideas if you've reached the page limit or the deadline for the project. So a SMART goal is one that's relevant to the stage of the project. If you're just starting out, for example, reading literature, taking notes on articles, writing summaries of articles and sources are all very relevant goals, but they might become less relevant as your project goes on as you begin to structure the paper and flesh out an outline. Lastly, SMART goals are time-bound. That is, you're giving yourself smaller, self-imposed deadlines to complete smaller tasks in order to stay motivating. One of the big differences between undergraduate and grad programs is that grad programs, it feels like you have a lot of time to do things. Like at the start of the semester, you might be given a paper or project that's due at the end of term. If you're writing a thesis or a capstone project, you may feel like you have a whole year or more to complete it. On the other hand, in real life, time goes fast and those big deadlines can feel vague, unmotivating, intimidating, or it could give you the impression that you have a ton of time. So by breaking down the big project into smaller chunks, you can also give yourself smaller self-imposed deadlines to meet those smaller tasks. I think too in grad school, it can become harder too when professors or advisors aren't always responsive with feedback. This is usually more of a problem with a thesis or a capstone project. So having advisors that give these broad deadlines, but you can stay motivated by giving yourself smaller deadlines. So to illustrate what I mean by SMART goals, I have a Jamboard I can share out with you in the chat. I'd like to use Jamboards because they're a great way to visualize vague ideas, as well as a way to get a lot of perspectives. You also have access to this Jamboard after the session. I dropped a link in the chat. You should be able to access this Jamboard and type on it. To type on the Jamboard, you can start a Post-it note. These are really fun and easy to use. It's on the left-hand panel. It's the fourth icon down that looks like a sticky note. You can click the note, type your message, and if you hit save, the note will appear on the Jamboard. So take a minute to think of a big writing goal. And Nora and Ming, you mentioned some at the beginning of the session. I'm getting papers written before deadline. Yeah, that is a good goal, and it's good to build in time for editing. And this is a great, honest example of a big goal too, to write a paper. Yeah, any other big goals? Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a great example of a big goal. Break down writing projects so you know you're on track with them, have room for unexpected issues. Yeah, these are good big goals because they're high level, they're holistic, like finish the paper, write the project. But by using SMART goals, you could break these projects down into smaller, manageable steps that also have some deadlines or timelines associated with them. To further illustrate what I mean by SMART goals, you all can complete this activity on the Jamboard. So here on the left-hand side, or my left-hand side, you see many examples of writing goals. These are not anyone's personal writing goals. Take a minute on the Jamboard to drag and drop the Post-it notes into effective and less effective goals. Another way to approach this is by thinking about which of these goals you would rather complete personally. So I see one that talks about finding articles to read. I'm going to put this one in the less effective category because I don't know when the person is supposed to do it or how many articles. I don't know when if I were doing this, I would be intimidated because I don't know when I'm supposed to be done with it. When have I met this goal? So take a minute to drag and drop the Post-it notes and sort them into effective and less effective goals.
How do we drag and drop them? I don't.
Okay, you can just grab the Post-it note with your mouse and move it across.
See, that doesn't seem to be working for me. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I try clicking on them and it's not reacting.
Yeah, I think you all should have the ability to move things around and write on the Jamboard. Yeah, sorry it's not working technology-wise.
I think you have to press and hold it and then you drag it from that. It works for me.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no worries. We can just discuss through it as a group. So what about this one? Explain and discuss image 3 and chart 2 today. A SMART goal or a less effective goal?
It's decent. I feel like I'm not really clear what explain and discuss means, but at least you're being specific about certain defined items.
Yeah, it's definitely more specific. This writer has a specific goal in mind to work on specific tables and figures. There's also a deadline, right? That they want to complete this by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And this one, edit methods section and email to advisor by Friday night.
I like that one.
So like my life, it revolves around deadlines, like everything. And that's why I think it's good to have things, planned out.
Yeah, what about this one? Write a lot. This is everyone's.
That's not,
So
there's
it's
nothing
just,
effective about that to
it's
me.
just about like, I don't know, but just especially it depends on the situation. Like if you have to work for, like if you have to finish your dissertation by a certain day, you really need to write a lot, and that's why it helps me. But it doesn't have to be like, helpful for everyone. We have different ways.
Yeah, so Nora, why would write a lot be scary or intimidating?
Well, it's just much less specific, right? So it doesn't, how much is a lot? Like, when do I need to do that? What am I writing about and why?
Yeah,
It
there's
just doesn't
no
give me enough framework.
timeline, there's no scope, it's not clear what they're focusing on. Yeah, the point here is to have goals that are more specific in scope, make them measurable. So like think if write a lot, maybe it's write a certain number of words, a certain number of pages. And most importantly, have a timeline or a deadline. So some of these ones like write 5,000 words every week, Monday through Saturday. That's more specific, it's measurable, there's an imposed timeline. Write one page every day at 10 a.m. That's also really specific. And you know when you're done, when you've met the goal. So what I'd like for you to do is to think about a specific writing project you're working on for this semester, and think about what is one SMART goal you could do toward that project. Maybe like what could you do over the weekend or by next week, and turn your big goal into a SMART goal and share it out on the Jamboard. If you can't access the Jamboard, share your goal in the chat. I see email Sean. Are you talking about Sean Bennett in the library?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I should add, can I edit the? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I'm having, like my lit review, I'm having trouble finding articles on my topic. And I think, I think the issue is my approach, not that they don't exist. So
Yeah, that is yeah, thanks Nora for sharing. That's a great example of a SMART goal within the writing process, in this case, to email someone for help with a specific request by a date and time. And yeah, our consulting librarians too can be really helpful with those lit searches and keyword topics. Yeah, the key here with the SMART goal is to keep breaking down the big writing project into smaller tasks that are more manageable, schedule dedicated time to work on that project, have quantifiable goals, and have smaller internal deadlines. So here, this chart too shows a quick recap of SMART goals versus what we call weaker goals or irrational goals. So SMART goals are quantifiable, they're manageable, thinking in terms of goals per day or per week. On the other hand, weaker goals are vague, things like complete my chapter by the end of the month, finish the paper, goals for a semester or a year. So thanks so far for an engaging writing session. We've covered some tips for staying motivated with a big writing project, specifically the technique of setting SMART goals. Now I'll talk about some of the resources you have available as NC State students from the graduate school to stay motivated and make progress on your writing projects. The first one of these coming up next is our online writing retreat. We hold a writing retreat every fall and spring semester, and it's really a time for writers to set aside dedicated time to work on a project like a thesis, capstone, article, or dissertation. The next one is coming up December 12th through 16th, and it takes place virtually via Zoom. Writers can engage in Pomodoro productivity sessions, have opportunities for individual consultations, as well as opportunities to learn more about campus resources related to writing. This slide shows some testimonials from past participants, writers across the disciplines who've gotten a lot out of this virtual retreat. It is an opportunity to make some progress while staying motivated and accountable in a supportive virtual community of writers. One participant even felt that these skills were useful and transferable to other areas of their professional life, as well as an opportunity to make progress on their projects. Moreover, in the graduate school, we also have a full suite of workshops dedicated to helping you become stronger writers in a variety of genres and writing techniques. These activities take the form of workshops and development series. Workshops are short, interactive, quick bite sessions devoted to a particular writing project or topic. For example, a good workshop topic is how to write an abstract or how to write an executive summary. We specifically have writing workshops called engineering cafes that focus on broad transferable writing skills like how to write concisely and how to write professional emails. While originally developed for engineering students, engineering cafes have gained popularity with writers across the disciplines. Development series, on the other hand, are kind of like non-credit courses. They're an opportunity to take a deeper dive into a specific writing project. For example, every summer we do a grant writing development series that walks writers through the process of looking for grant and fellowship opportunities, evaluating calls for proposals, and crafting persuasive proposals. Another example of a development series is our late stage writing project or work in progress development series. This consists of opportunities for writers to make progress on a project, participate in peer review sessions, individual consultations, and more, while focusing on the publication process. We hold these workshops and development series every fall and spring semester with a limited selection over the summer. Currently, these workshops and development series are to take place in a hybrid mode, in the sense that some workshops are on Zoom to be accessible to a broad audience. As I understand, like many folks in the College of Ed are joining from outside of Raleigh. On the other hand, some events have returned in person for those who want more of an in-person experience. Some past participants too have gotten a lot out of these workshops and engineering cafes. One writer finding it helpful to set goals and recognize how to start writing and planning their journal article. Other writers have found it helpful in terms of thinking more professionally about writing including strategies for finishing their dissertation and their industry career. Lastly, if you're interested in furthering your writing skills, you can check out our graduate writing certificate. This is a newer initiative for students who participate in the writing retreats, development series, workshops, and related programming from campus partners. It's an opportunity to develop and polish your academic and professional writing skills, as well as to create an online portfolio showcasing your work for an employer audience of your choice. The writing certificate requires around 100 hours of online workshops and activities, and it's modeled after our department's teaching and communication certificate, which is like a sister program also rooted in participation and interaction. Both certificates culminate with the opportunity to create a professional online portfolio. You can learn more too about any of these opportunities at the Go links on the slides. I've shared these slides too with Somanita so she can share them out to a wider audience in your department. It looks like there's some questions in the chat. Oh, the slides are available. Yeah, thanks, Ming, and for that question. And Somanita, it looks like you will send these out. So as we close out in our final few seconds, what other questions do you have about the writing process or about our graduate school programs?
No questions for me.
Ming, Somanita, what questions did you have?
So I actually have one question for the last slide. When you talk about 100 hours, like, can you go to the last slide?
Yeah.
Yes, 100 hours of approved activities. What are those activities? Just like, for example, if I don't have to sit with other students, but I'm doing other research by myself, how can I count that?
Yeah, so like the teaching and communication certificate, the writing certificate really is based on activities, what we call participation or seat time in the related programming. So you can earn hours toward the writing certificate by participating in the writing retreats, in development series and workshops that are offered every semester, as well as in our Ahead of the Pack development series. This is offered every fall and it's geared toward earlier stage students, but later stage students have also found the Ahead of the Pack helpful in understanding campus resources, as well as navigating higher ed and academia. Does that answer your question about 100 hours of activity?
Yes. So I wonder if we can use like the participation from like a few semesters ago with like, different professional development activities and like sessions.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So participants who attend our engineering cafes, writing workshops, development series, and retreats are already earning hours toward the certificate. To have those hours count for it, they do have to formally enroll in the certificate program. At the beginning of every fall and spring semester, participants can register in the writing certificate program. We put out this call through our newsletters and through the GSC newsletter for departments to share with students. That application period is the beginning of every fall and spring semester. Some people follow the writing certificate and earn hours without formally enrolling and then enroll in the semester they want to graduate when they've completed their 100 hours. Others enroll early and keep track of their progress more gradually. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I actually have one last question. Can you please show us like the website, how to create online portfolio so that those who have not done it before kind of know how to get it done?
Oh, the website. So Manita, are you asking specifically about our writing and teaching certificate portfolios? We
Yes.
also do offer workshops on how to put together portfolios. We offer a one-off workshop and a whole development series on portfolios.
Okay, sounds great. I think students can enroll and learn how to do that. It's also helpful for those students who are planning on, getting a job after graduation, then they have their own website or portfolio, online portfolio ready. Thank you so much, Dr. Homa, for your time and your presentation. And I hope students learn a lot from, time management, how to prepare academic writing, and, how to get it done on time and effectively. Anyone has any other questions for Dr. Homa today?
I'm all set, but I do want to say thank you. Definitely some good tips in here for me to take away.
Yeah, I'm glad you found it helpful, Nora and Ming. Thanks too for the engaging session, and good luck with the rest of your semester. I hope to see you all at a future event. I've dropped some links in the chat to the graduate workshops registration page. The registration for the writing retreat is already open. You can sign up for it on the workshops page. We plan to announce our spring schedule in December after the Thanksgiving break, so that webpage will be updated with spring activities in a little over a month. Lastly, I dropped a link in the chat to the writing certificate if you're interested in learning more about the requirements for that program, including the portfolio that Somanita mentioned.
This is perfect. I'll make sure I share this with the faculty and students in the program. Thank you so much, Dr. Homa. Thank you everyone for joining.
May I please have one question?
Absolutely.
So I wonder, so we can register for the writing certificate, and I wonder what this certificate for, and also when we applying for this certificate, what we are going to through. For example, we are going to writing together, we are going to do what kind of activity like this.
Yeah, thank you, Ming, for your question. So the writing certificate, retreats, workshops, everything that my office does is not for credit. So these are not official certificates. It does, however, carry a transcript designation, but it is based on non-credit activities. You can earn this certificate by participating in our workshops, development series, the writing retreat, and related events. To sign up for the certificate, we put out a call for registration at the beginning of every fall and spring semester. You can read the graduate school's newsletter for announcements. It typically goes out in the first semester's newsletter. We also send the call for certificates through the department listserv, so watch for emails from your department as well. I know the education department is very supportive of these, and so that their GSCs do send out those announcements. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, and stay safe and take care the rest of this semester, and hope to see you at a future event.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr.
everyone.
Homa. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, they are really helpful.
Thanks, bye y'all.
Bye.